in my younger days.
He's not directly related to you?
No. No, people have called him my cousin, my uncle, and so on, but we were really not related. Through his tremendous interest in new things, new technology, electronics, computers, etc., which gave us common ground to talk, and tremendous excitement over so many things of today's world.
Yes. And in those days?
In those days.
I can imagine. I saw a completely different side from him because I'd met him socially on a number of occasions. He's wonderful at dumb charades.
I see. That's a side I never saw.
We were, in the beginning, we were always in awe of him.
Yeah.
But within an hour or so, he made us feel he was our age.
He was a wonderful human being, lovely human qualities, totally humble.
Very self-effacing.
Yeah, he never would let anyone check him in when he flew. He often drove himself to work in the morning, and he was an Indian through and through. He was a very, very warm human being. I really got to know him and love him as time went on.
When were you first aware that he had chosen you as his successor?
Well, probably. And when I came back, I heard he'd had a heart problem, and he was in Breach Candy Hospital. He was there a week, see him in the office. And he'd always start meetings by saying, well, what's new?
Okay.
And I said, well, Jay, I've been seeing you every day. There's nothing new since I saw you last. And he said, well, I have something that's new that I want to tell you. Sit down. And he said, what has happened to me in Jamshedpur made me think that I need to step down. And I've decided that you should take my place. And then there were a few days more, and then he took it to the board.
That's on the 25th of March,
I don't remember the day, but probably if you say that's the day, that's the day.
But people who were present at that meeting say they regretted not having a camera to record the events. It was a moving experience. Can you take me back to that meeting somewhat?
Well, I've heard many of my colleagues say that there was history that day because there was therefore a lot of emotion attached to his giving up this position in favor of someone. But the history and the emotion that everyone talks about is not that move. He, like an archival recount of all his days in Tata, never his own praise, but just his experiences as he went through. And there was history that day. I think we all came out very moved.
I can imagine. It was the end of an era, the beginning of a new one.
That's right.
So what did you learn from him that you carry with you always?
What I learned from him, perhaps, and what I carry with me, is a sense of justice, which was always prevalent. You know, he was always fair and just. He always did what he considered to be the right thing, irrespective of how difficult it was. And he stood up for principles, and he stood by people. So his value system, his simplicity, his sense of justice were all things that I think have stayed with me. And I hope I can emulate them even half as well as he was able to do through his life.
Talking about this value system, what I know of you and what I remember best about you from those early years was something that happened before you even met before you started working with Mr. G.R.D. Tata, so it was there in you in any case, was the fact that if you said something, Ratan, you always did it. I mean, in those days we were all very young, and even if it boiled down to small things like, if you said you'd phone, you would phone. If you said you'd write, you wrote. You always kept your word. And I feel that that is an integral attribute to you, isn't it?
It is, but I was dealing with someone who was in those days I looked upon as very attractive, and so it was. I was also driven by that. I can't say that I've been that honorable in terms of keeping my word on all sorts of things, but by and large,
You generally do.
I generally do. I tend to not say things loosely. I try to live up to whatever I've said, or commitments I've made.
After all these years, I know that if Ratan says it, you can count on it.
Well, thank you. That's a nice thing to hear.
But strictly by the rules, very ethically. Has this slowed down the rate of progress, do you think?
I think at times we have we have suffered. We have paid a price, if you might. I think we've also gained a great deal of respect. And what I would say, and I've told many, that there's something that is important to me, and that is to go to bed at night or to wake up in the morning feeling that we have not sacrificed our principles and that we have not subordinated our values to some short-term materialistic aims. And at other times, unfortunately, we feel we're discriminated against.
Like when?
When there are issues which relate to questionable ethics, projects. But all of that is forgotten when there is something that no one else is willing to do. Then one turns to us. And I think in a way that's an honor.